So I guess this would be the first video in this series that I'm starting on my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name's Rachel, and I have a 10-month-old daughter who was born with a congenital heart defect. I have decided to come on here and use this platform to share my experience. When I found out about her diagnosis, there was not many things out there. There was a lot of technical things and a lot of doctory things and medical things that were out there that helped with that, but not much from another mother's perspective or another parent's perspective. So I wanted to come on here and share my experience so that I can help at least one person. And I'm hoping through sharing my experience, not only would it be helpful for somebody else, but in return be maybe therapeutic for me. I'm hoping this will be a therapeutic experience. So we have had a very long 10 months. Actually, it goes back to when I was 20 weeks pregnant and I went to my anatomy scan. But I'm gonna go through our entire experience, explain everything that we've been through, and in hopes that I can bring some ease to any other parents who are going through anything remotely similar. So this video today is going to be starting at her diagnosis, the beginning of our journey. So we found out about her diagnosis at my 20-week anatomy scan. We had been through the genetic testing. You know, I found out I was pregnant. I was so grateful that I was able to get pregnant. You know, obviously I had some anxiety about the genetic testing, but we made it through that. I was extremely grateful for that. And then our next step was the anatomy scan, and I was so excited because we were able to see her growth, and you know, I was very excited. And when we go to the maternal fetal medicine doctor to get that scan, and they found something, and the person was scanning me. They were like, okay, well, we're gonna bring the doctor in here and she's gonna look at things and go over things with you. And okay, that's fine, whatever. So she comes in, she looks, and she says, so I think I see a VSD, which stands for ventricular septal defect. And that is a medical term for a hole in the heart. So she said, she was very nice about it. And, you know, at that moment, as a parent, you know, when you just expect to see, oh, your beautiful baby and oh, this is so exciting, you don't expect to hear something like that. Ever, ever, ever. So when you hear something like that, first of all, at first we were confused because we're like, And then it kind of starts to sink in that, oh my God, something's wrong with my baby. Darn it. It's bringing me back to that moment. So she told us that she thinks that she has a VSD. She's been wrong about these things before, but they always tend to be a little bit more cautious about these things. So she left the room for a second. She goes, give me some time. You know, I'm gonna call Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania, CHOP for short. Well, you guys need to have an appointment as soon as possible so they can look at this with their higher technology machines. So she left the room, and it was me and my husband, and that was really hard. It was very scary, because we really didn't know what was going on. And when you find out something like that, you just don't expect it. You don't expect it at all. You think that everything's supposed to be okay. You think that this wasn't supposed to happen this way. This was my first baby. And we we find out that she has a hole in her heart, you really don't know how you're supposed to feel. And it's devastating because there's so much you don't know. It's just really scary. So we leave the appointment. My initial reaction is obviously, what did I do? Was it that Advil I took? Was it like something I did before I was pregnant? Like, what did I do? My first initial reaction was to blame myself. And I learned later that it was absolutely nothing that I did, but this can just happen. So on my way home from the appointment, I got a call from CHOP and they set an appointment up for the next day, which was good, because we needed to take care of it immediately. Because the earlier they can detect, the more that they can prepare for what to do. So it was an emotional rest of the night, trying to just take in we were just told. I sat down with my husband and we talked about it. But again, there was really not much that we knew. This was kind of like a soft diagnosis, if you will. We needed to sit down with cardiologists and maternal fetal medicine doctors. There was really nothing that we could do or think of to prepare us for what was going to come. So we just had no idea what was happening. We just knew that it was really upsetting. But we just kind of had to be like, okay, let's just hear what the doctors have to say. We just kind of need to calm down. So the next day we go to CHOP. We go to Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania, which is not far from where we live. It's about a 45 minute drive. So we hop into the car, we drive to the city, and we meet with the maternal fetal medicine doctors that they have there. And they ordered a fetal echo, a fetal heart echo, where it's basically an ultrasound, but they look at the heart, they look at the functions of the heart, all 4 chambers, all of the septums, and all the things that connect the 4 chambers. And so we got through that. I got through that scan. It was a very long scan. We got through that, and then we sit down with a nurse and a cardiologist. And the cardiologist was the one who explained to us what they're going to officially diagnose her with. So when we sat down at the table, obviously stressed beyond belief, she showed us a diagram of a normal heart and then our baby's heart. And she explained to us, and hopefully I can put in visuals so you can see what we saw. But she diagnosed her with double outlet right ventricle. So a double outlet right ventricle means that the 2 main arteries in our heart, the aorta and the pulmonary artery, they're both connected and dumping into the right ventricle. When the pulmonary valve is supposed to go into the right ventricle and the aorta is supposed to go into the left ventricle. The pulmonary artery pumps that blood into the lungs, and her heart has the 2 ventricles dumping all the blood into the right ventricle, as well as the VSD. So she's also got a hole. So you've got the two valves, the aorta and the pulmonary valve, the 2 main valves in your heart dumping into the right ventricle with the hole between the right and the left ventricle. So that caused a overflow dump of blood into her lungs. We also did learn, when we shared the diagnosis with the rest of our family, we learned, like, almost everybody we knew somebody or knew someone who knew somebody who's had a VSD. A lot of times they close up before they're born, or some people walk around with VSDs. They don't recommend that because it increases your risks of blood clots and strokes, all kinds of things. So if they can address them early, then they do. It's a bit of a miracle that we found out when I was 20 weeks pregnant, because a lot of people don't find out until their baby is born. So there was a lot of opportunity that came from finding out so early. So that is, I thank God for maternal fetal medicine and technology and doctors. So they were hoping as she grew inside of me, she could possibly make it less severe than it was when they first found it. But that really didn't happen. I'm going to explain more about my pregnancy and stuff, and things that I dealt with during my pregnancy, more in a different video, but I kind of just want this to be about her diagnosis. But for other reasons, unfortunately, she didn't overcome that with growth. When they sat down and they gave us her diagnosis, then they went into a plan. So they did explain to us that she will need surgery when she comes out. When that will be, they're not sure. They gave us a rough estimate that it would be between 6 months to a year. The reason for that being is that they wanted her to grow and develop and get a bit stronger so she can take the surgery a little bit better. So we were prepared to, they said that I was going to have to deliver at CHOP rather than my hometown hospital, which was fine. I was fine with that. So they could monitor her, that she would spend some time in the NICU. They prepared us for all of this right off the jump. At least the baseline stuff. There was a lot of stuff to come that we didn't know that was going to happen. But right off the bat, with getting the diagnosis, they did say right away, she will need surgery. You will deliver here. We're looking at this timeline, and you're going to need to come to get regular echoes throughout your pregnancy. And we are taking over your care from now throughout your pregnancy. So I had a hometown OB, I had a hometown hospital that I was all ready and set up to go. And then I had to switch everything and have them take over all of my care, which meant for all of my appointments and all of my scans and everything like that, I had to go into the city. So I did have to quit my job. My job, it was hourly. It was full-time, but it was hourly. And so I couldn't take a leave or anything like that. They didn't really have like a set maternity leave or anything like that. So I had to make the decision to quit, because I pretty much had to designate my life at the time to my pregnancy, my appointments. This kind of changed my life. So that's pretty much it when it comes to her diagnosis. It was intense. We had a lot of information dumped on us when we initially found out her diagnosis, which was a little difficult. I remember sitting at the table after she explained everything, and I'm just kind of like spaced out. Like, I was like, I didn't even know how to feel about everything. I was just like, that's so much information. I'm still trying to process that this is not a normal situation. This is not how things are supposed to go. I'm still trying to process that and swallow that large pill at the same time of trying to absorb all of this information. And that's why I'm so grateful for my husband. He is so much better about compartmentalizing so he can absorb all this information. So we left, and me and my husband talked about it on the way home. And, I kind of like looked at the papers that they gave me and looked at the diagrams and did research on my own, because of course that's how I work. The more information I get, the better I feel and the less anxiety I have. It eases my anxiety when I know exactly what's going on. And of course, the first place I turned to is YouTube, and I was searching for other people's stories, and I didn't find that much. So that's why I'm sitting here today and sharing my story, because I don't want anybody to feel the way I felt. If I can bring some ease to someone else who's going through something similar, then I want to do that, because that fear and the isolation, like it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So I really hope that this video and my coming videos of our whole journey and our ongoing journey, we're not done, you know, bring some ease and some comfort to someone else. I mean, that's kind of it for her diagnosis story. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. My next video is going to be diving into my whole pregnancy and what I experienced throughout all of my pregnancy and how that went with the appointments and you know, everything up until my birth. I'll go through in the next video. So yeah, so that's her diagnosis. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.